morning. It is June 14th. June 14th. So it was a great weekend for sure. It was a great weekend. I spent time with family and friends, and it was just a lot of fun. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. You know, and I had this realization, right? And I shared it before. I'm just like, you know, I have the power, right? We have it all within. And so, yeah. So a couple things. I'm excited because I got my mic for the voiceover stuff. I got it yesterday. It's still in the box. But I'm gonna unpack it. I'm gonna see what else I'm needing, because that's just a couple pieces. And I talked to the lovely Liana, and I'll include her Instagram account too, because she does voiceover acting, and she has a really great voice, like a really great voice. I really like her voice, and she's so personable, and I really like her energy. She's just amazing. But I actually told her, I was like, you know, this is what I'm thinking, and you know, I talked to you last time, and I think I want to dabble in that, and I was wondering, you know, if you would be able to help me, like, just, you know, a little. So she's like, yeah, for sure. Like, it was just so great, you know, like, again, me working on pushing through my discomfort of asking for help. And I was telling this other friend of mine, I'm like, you know, that was the masculine side of me, of like, I can do this myself, I don't need anybody. and really just working on that. So that was cool that she's willing to, like, just help me and figure out, like, what I can do, what she did first, and hearing her story again was really cool. The other thing, so that I'm excited about that. I'm gonna work on that today. I had a great day yesterday. I went into work a couple hours to help Miss Hannah, like, just to give her a break and she can go and have some fun, and it was just a lot of fun. Like, it was fun to be at the market again, and even for a few hours, like, that was really cool. And I went with a friend of mine. I'd been telling him about the markets, and yeah, and I invited him, and he was down to go, and we actually made a whole day of it. It was so much fun. This is the friend, this is Mr. Bumble. Mr. Bumble. And you know, actually, I thought about this morning. I was just like, you know, I remember when he first asked me out, how triggered I was that he asked me out to go for coffee, a hike, and dinner. And I remember being so triggered about that, and we made a whole day of it yesterday. It was so much fun. Took him to the Rose Bowl Market, first time ever, to explore, and then after that, I mean, we had an initial plan, and that totally went to shit. and then he's just like, why don't we just stay here and explore? I was like, sure, why not, right? Like, and so we got lost in Pasadena, and it was so much fun. We got lost, and then he had teased me about it. He's just like, watch you have a tutu moment and we end up in San Francisco. And I was just like, no. But we did get lost, and I mean, I don't think I've ever gotten lost in Pasadena before, so this was so much fun to get lost in Pasadena. And so we were he was actually driving, and then I passed by and I see the Gamble house. I didn't know it was called the Gamble house. I was like, isn't that the house from Back to the Future? And then he's like, what? Totally random, right? And then, like, I'm like, do a U-turn, like, we gotta see this house, I've always wanted to go. And so we did a U-turn. Sure enough, like, it was, I guess it's called the Gamble house, and the garage is the bookstore, so we took pictures. Like, well, I took pictures. It was so much fun. I was like, I've always wanted to check this, like, random, right? And it's really cool because it's an 80s movie, and he actually was the one to introduce me to synthwave, which is like this upgraded version of 80s music or 80s movie soundtrack. Like, synthwave is really cool. so it's really neat that we got to experience that. And then we just found a place to have lunch, like, well, to take our lunch to go, and then we found a random park. I kid you not, this random park was underneath the bridge of the La La Land scene where, like, they're walking. So I was just like, isn't this the La La Land bridge? So he's looking at me, he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, how do you know this? So I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you're really good with the visual movie stuff. I'm like, it looked like it, only because I've recently been watching the La La Land scene to try to work. My other good friend of mine and I are trying to master the La La Land song, so we could go to karaoke and be like, oh, what, you want us to karaoke? Oh my gosh, like, I don't know this song. Like, oh, I guess we'll just try it out and then totally kill it. So that's our plan. So I've been practicing. Yeah, and so then after that, initially it was just gonna be a hike, so we ended up waiting for, like, the sun to start going down to do, like, an evening hike, and that was so much fun. Also still in Pasadena, and just great conversation, great company, and then we just stayed up and talked a little bit about, we got to see the sunset, and just talked about, like, what we want for ourselves, and then he gave me some good ideas about the voiceover stuff, or starting a podcast where I'm just reading books to children. Like, I'm like, it's really great ideas. I'm like, hey, that's not a bad idea. And so then, because he said he liked my voice. So after that, we were driving back, and then randomly, like, everything was just random. That was the theme. Like, just like, hey, you want to do this? Sure. You know, like, why not? And so he knows of this park where there's, like, where just a lot of grass, and he had a blanket, and this was already, like, at night. Like, I would say it was like 9. Yeah, it was like 9. And he's like, hey, you want to go to the park and just, like, lay out and look up at the stars and listen to great music? I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. Let's go. And yeah, like, it was so much fun. I'd always wanted to do that too. Like, and he was so, like, it was really cool. It was just really cool, like, to have that experience, and like, just literally checking off stuff off my list. Just, like, without even planning it. Like, it just unfolded in that way. So that was so much fun. And then we talked about, like, oh, we should do this at Joshua Tree, like, just to look up the stars, and pulled out my constellation little thing. It was really cool. And then something happened, which I thought was, I'm still trying to figure it out. There might be a rational answer to it, but you know me, I'd like to go with the irrational response, or possible answer. So during that time frame, like, I had my glasses on, and you know, we earthed at that same time. So, like, we took off. I'm like, I'm gonna take off my shoes. I'm gonna enjoy this moment and just earth. And he did too. And then we were just talking, and you know, he has, like, certain spiritual, like, abilities too. And so we're just talking about spiritual stuff. It was so much fun. And so then we're looking up, and I'm noticing that towards the end, not the beginning that we were there, but towards, I want to say, like, the second part of the time that we were there, because we were there for, like, a good hour and a half maybe, and it was getting cold. And but I noticed that, like, when I would close my eyes, I would see these lines. Like, lines going, like, it was like I could see the circle, like, the iris part of my eye, and then there were, like, lines going like this, and then it was just weird. And I would do it again. I'm like, is that me or is it the light around? Like, cause I mean, there was a good space where there wasn't light, and then at the edge of the park there were like lights, right? Cause it's at night. So then I thought, wow, like I can really pick up the reflection of the light that far, because I wasn't seeing that at the beginning. And so then I asked him, I'm like, do you, when you close your eyes, like, and then open them, like, close your eyes really tight and then open them, like, do you see lines? Like, is it just me or do you see lines? And then he's just like, and he was doing it, he's like, I don't see anything. And I was like, because I see lines, I see lines, I see lines like this. And it wasn't until this morning that I realized, I'm like, oh, it was like, it looked like a grid, it looked like a grid. But not around, like, it didn't cross the circle. There was no, like, I wish I could draw it. So it was like just grid, like it looked like a grid, like a certain type of grid, but it wasn't like a straight line. Like it was like circular, like it was like like if it was like a bubble, like if I was inside a bubble and I can kind of see the curviness of this grid line. It was just the most interesting experience, and I kept closing my eyes. And then initially I had my glasses, so I was like, it's the glare of my glasses. So I took off the glasses, and he asked me that too. He says, don't you have your glasses on? I'm like, I took them off and I still see them. And so then he tried it again, and yeah, he didn't get it. And I was just like, okay, it must be my eyesight. It has to be my eyesight, right? But I thought that was weird because it really felt like there were just like lines, and they were kind of bent. So I knew it was like if I was like in a little bubble, and it was cool because it was like in the stars and stuff. But then I'm like, is it just my imagination? Or is this something else? So I thought that was really neat. Then this morning, of course, I still listen to MJ, and he asked me about, he's like, who's MJ? You always refer to MJ in your videos. So I was telling him about MJ, and just telling him, just like, I've learned to discern, what's for me and what isn't, and it's just helpful because, she sheds light to sometimes to a certain part that I wasn't aware of until she says it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what it is, right? So this morning's message, and she said one yesterday, and it resonated, but not really, but this morning, the one this morning, she talked about feeling lighter. She talked about depression, and she talked about how depression is really, it was an interesting way of looking at depression, where there's a certain element of anger towards yourself with depression. And it's funny because I was talking to my friend yesterday. I was talking to my friend yesterday about depression, that I had depression before. I had episodes of it, and that it got to the point where I needed medication, and I was going to therapy, and I took time off work. This was like over 10 years ago, and how it impacted my life in such a way where I was just like, oh, I don't wish this on anybody. But realizing that I had episodes of that, and justifying it or trying to ignore it, right? And so she talks about that, and so it was interesting to hear her say that perspective of it, where it's anger towards yourself, depression, anger towards yourself to a certain degree. And I guess I can see that. Like, I need to sit with that a little more. But I guess I can see that in the sense of like feeling helpless, feeling hopeless, and there's a certain accountability that comes with our emotions, right? And sometimes we're projecting that on somebody else, right? And so sometimes depression looks like anger when we're pushing it away, but it's really about ourselves and the inability to do something or feel that we are powerful enough to do something about our situation. That makes sense. Because with kids, sometimes it comes out as anger towards other people, like especially boys. there's a tendency for men and for boys for depression to come out as anger towards others, or very irritable, right? I mean, for me, it happened. Clearly, it's not just men. But when your masculine side is a little more dominant, your masculine energy is a little more dominant. Because he even asked me, he's just like, I can't. And when I was telling him that, I was like, yeah, I was really bitter. Like, there was a bitter part of me. Like, I was cold. There was a certain coldness that I couldn't kind of overcome. And I would shut people out. Like, yeah. That's interesting. Like, just thinking about it and reflecting on it. And so there's a certain element of anger towards yourself, really. Anger towards yourself and your situation, and feeling powerlessness about it. Because MJ talked about this sense of like, once you recognize that you have the power within you to make a change, to do something different, to go against these constructs, right? Breaking barriers for yourself, really. Breaking barriers for yourself. Breaking barriers for yourself. Breaking rules and barriers. Breaking rules and barriers. Breaking rules and constructs for yourself. Really. You remember the power that you have in your choices. And then you feel more empowered to do something different, to respond differently, to look at life differently. It's a choice. It's a choice. Sometimes it's not an easy one, but at the end of the day, it's still a choice. It's still a choice. Anyways, where are we going? She talked about this feeling, this lightness. And I was like, I feel light. Like, I do. Like, I feel like this heaviness has been lifted. I even wore the Peridot yesterday, and it didn't feel so heavy. It didn't feel heavy. And just other things, like even just hanging out with this friend that triggered me at some point, or that I was triggered, right? I mean, he was just being him, but I was triggered. And sitting with those feelings before, and then realizing how I felt yesterday, I'm like, it just felt so light. It felt so freeing. And that's what MJ was talking about, this feeling free, like this. And there were so many, like we saw so many sparrows yesterday, and blue jay, we saw blue jay that just ran right in front of us, which was awesome. So anyways, that was fun. And then we were talking about religions, and he had never heard the story of Adam and Eve. And so I was like, let me tell you the story about Adam and Eve. Let me tell you my hypothesis. My theory about that story, the first story of the Bible that we learn as Christians, right? Like, you know, let me tell you about this story, and let me tell you what my thoughts are on it. So I pull out my Bible app, right? I still got my Bible app, and I'm reading the story to him, and then he told me, he's just like, I really liked how you told the story. He's just like, you should totally. He's all, I think that voiceover stuff is really gonna work for you. Because he's just like, you did the characters, the stat, like you were engaging that I wanted to know more. I was like, oh, cool. But then it prompted me to think, because we were just both talking about it, like in terms of our beliefs, right? And the shift, and that I learned that with Buddhism. I told him, like, I feel like I'm adopting more Buddhism lifestyle beliefs, and incorporate. But then I learned an aunt of mine is also in the spiritual world, and she reminded me that you can, with Buddhism, like you can practice that way of life, but keep your denomination. So she's Catholic, so she's like, I still pray, you know, like the way she was brought up. So as a Christian, I could still uphold certain beliefs, right? And we were talking about just religion and church, and he asked me if I was going to church, and you know, I was sharing my story with him about how I felt the need to like step back because I didn't want to confuse anybody, and you know, because it can get really confusing, right? For people, it can, and that's scary for people, where the world around them gets shifted, and then there's question, and then you have to question everything, and for some people that's a lot. It can be overwhelming. And so I was like, I felt the need to step away, and then just hearing the stories and hearing the messages, there's certain elements that, yeah, I can take for me, but for the most part, like, my beliefs are shifting, and it's not in alignment with that anymore based on what I'm experiencing. And for me, what I'm experiencing is more my truth than hearing it from someone else. Really, truly. Like, and that's ultimately what this whole process has been about, is for each of us to discover what that truth is for ourselves. And there's no wrong way of doing it. Like, your truth is your truth, right? As long as you're balanced in your truth, you're good. If we're gonna put a label to it, you're good. So anyways, I remember that I had this book. I had gotten it at the little bookshop in Claremont, and I'm just like, I'm gonna start reading it. I really wanna, so that's not 4 books that I'm reading at once. But just, how does the story start for each of them, right? Yeah. So that was cool. So this morning's meditation, after I had listened to MJ, I was getting ready for my meditation, and just, you know, being grateful and speaking out, like, you know, what I want. And oh, by the way, today apparently is the, what did she say it was? Saturn something. MJ said something was going on today. And I'm still learning about these aspects and stuff. But she said that Saturn squares Uranus. I have no idea what that means, but I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up. And so anyways, so the crazy thing is, one, I couldn't see the light. but I opened my eyes, and I kid you not, I turn on the flame. I turn on a little velita. You know, it looks like this. It's literally from like the Dollar Tree, right? A little small velita. It was like freaking like, what the hell? Like, it was encompassing the whole thing, and I recorded it because I was like, like, my candle is gonna burn down my house. This little rinky-dink thing is gonna burn down my house. And I'm staring at it, and it's just like intense. Like, the flame is just, and it's not, I've had this candle before. It's not like a new candle where I turn it on. It was like down here. So I've turned it on before, and it hasn't done that until this morning. So I recorded it because I thought it looked pretty cool. And I'll probably link it because I know how to do that now. To show you guys how intense this candle was, this small little candle, and how it burned until it died out. So I don't know what that means. I'm still gonna learn what this Saturn square Uranus means, and I'll probably find a link or something and put a link in there for you guys to also explore. Yeah. It was a fun day yesterday. A really great day. So thank you, sir, Mr. Bumble, you know who you are. And thank you for a great day. A great random getting lost in Pasadena day. All right, you guys take care.
is Yubi, and in case you haven't figured it out, this footage is capturing my experience as I learn to navigate my personal spiritual awakening. I am learning that this experience is unique to each one of us, in whatever way we believe we are embracing living our truth. This just happens to be my journey. And despite me having a graduate degree and a license in clinical social work, this by no means is intended to replace any type of mental health advice. This is just me on a personal level, documenting my experience, shedding light on the truth that I am learning and discovering for myself, and really inviting you along for the ride. If by some magical chance you find this content to be helpful in any way, shape, or form, please click the like button, share the message, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have an Instagram account, a personal one, and one specifically for this channel that you're more than welcome to check out. I'm an open book. I have also created t-shirt designs. I'm wearing my favorite one right now, which is the North Node design, but I have that and other things that you can look at inspired by this process and journey, and I have the link in the description box as well as in the about section of my YouTube channel. So you're more than welcome to check those items out. Any type of support is great. Again, if you find this content really helpful or meaningful, sometimes when we take that step and be vulnerable, with showing what's inside our hearts and what's really our truth, we realize that we're much more connected than what we thought we were. And so I hope that as I'm living this experience and that you find some type of truth for yourself, or find some type of ability to heal in some way just by relating, just by knowing that you're not alone. That really has been my goal with this process, not just being able to connect with others, but really for my own healing. It's definitely been a therapeutic experience and a very creative one for myself. So I thank you, and I wish you all the best. And